Over the past 4 months, we've seen a lot of games pop up on Twitter that tend to trend and have people declaring it to be the hottest game, only for it to fizzle out after 3 or 4 days and nothing else to be heard of it. However, there was a clip that got released onto Twitter on October 12, 2022 of what some of us thought was real body cam footage. Instead, it was a body cam point of view from a game that was being made by one person. Well, that game's Steam page went live on April 19th, and I got some stuff to say about it. Originally, I didn't want to cover this until I started seeing people on Twitter and many content creators on YouTube talk about this game as if it's here, it's something successful, and while I think it's a cool concept, it seems a little bit too good to be true to me personally. So without further ado, grab your GoPro and your trusty pistol as we dive into Unrecord. And if you enjoy what you see today, be sure to sub to the channel. Okay, let's continue. According to the FAQ in Discord, Unrecord is a single-player FPS developed and published by Drama that tells the story of a tactical police officer from the perspective of his body camera. As you work to solve a complex case, you'll need to use your tactical and detective skills to succeed. As far as the experience, the FAQ goes on to mention that Unrecord is a tactical shooter where players can expect an immersive experience. Unrecord features complex dialogues, innovative gameplay mechanics, tough morale dilemmas, and a unique shooting system. It is not an RPG nor a loot-based game, but rather a story-driven experience with a strong focus on realism and immersion. As far as the story goes, the FAQ states the storyline can be compared to a detective novel or a thriller. The player will have to investigate several criminal cases and confront a diverse cast of characters. The game's plot and presentation will be central to the gameplay experience, and players can anticipate a range of gameplay sequences as well as numerous plot points. Now, with me being a huge fan of true crime stuff, the concept of this game alone made me moister than being at the Niagara Falls during a hurricane. But the biggest draw for a lot of people is that this gameplay is from Unreal Engine 5. I also love how this is going to be a single player only experience. And don't get me wrong, co-op is cool and all, but I will admit that it could have taken away from some of the impact the story could deliver. And for those that are possibly asking about multiplayer, stop. It's not a lot of you, but don't bother asking. Why? Because a multiplayer mode in this game would blow more ass than a fart caught in a ceiling fan. Okay, this game is just not meant for PvP. While I do admit that this game looks absolutely stunning and hyper realistic, I'm just a little confused on how things are gonna pan out for this title and if it's even going to be possible to pull off what Drama is showing. I mean, there was a tweet that got sent out while I was writing this script confirming my biggest suspicion about it being legit gameplay or possibly even motion capped, but even then, there are some things I'm questioning. For example, how are the guns going to operate? As we see, there are times where the player is either idle or moving and the gun moves and behaves in a way that I haven't seen in any other game that wasn't a VR title. I have an idea of what it could be and I'm gonna do my best to describe it, but maybe there's a dead zone in the center of the screen that doesn't move the camera, and once you go outside of that dead zone, then the camera starts moving with the gun. Does that make sense? I hope so. Even if it's all figured out, I'm just a little concerned the gunplay may be a bit uncomfortable and clunky. And if you're thinking about typing anything about what I just said, I am keeping in mind that there isn't a demo to download and we have no timeline on when this will be done, so maybe something more fluid will pop up in the future. Also, the UI is incredibly minimalistic, but one thing I'm wondering is how much of it are we actually going to see and when is it going to show up on screen? For example, in the first altercation, we don't see anything until the player runs, pulls back, and then calls for dispatch. Another example that we see is when the player is checking mags, you can see a little indicator show up on how many rounds are left. It's probably a simple explanation, but one that I think needs to be put out there once the time comes so there's not any sort of confusion on how this is gonna work. Now, moving on to everything else, the scenery is definitely an upgrade from the building we saw in the first clip back in 2022. This seems like some sort of rundown school or admin building, and I'm kind of eager to see what's coming next with these level designs. The audio is also a night and day difference compared to the first clip.
Shots fired! Shots fired!
Oh yeah, definitely an improvement. I know body cams normally have audio similar to putting a speaker in a microwave while it's on, but the first clip just made everything sound like mud. I also love the small details like smoke coming off the gun, the faint sounds of the uniform shuffling when sweeping the gun left to right or running, the blurred faces on the people you shoot. This game is definitely going to take pride in showing off the small details. Now for my final thoughts, I understand why this game is trending on Twitter and why it's being hyped up as much as it is, but am I the only one that feels like it's being too hyped? Am I the only one that has a little bit of optimism with this title? Like, I get it, right? The game looks super realistic. But knowing that it's a game has really got me somewhat excited to see what other games can do on this engine. The story possibly having this aspect of every decision having some sort of action is always good because that'll drive people to come back to it for multiple playthroughs. Telltale's The Walking Dead is a perfect example with its many endings and plot twists based off your decisions. I will say that if the story is like this though, I would love to see the percentages of what people chose. It just would be a nice little touch. There's just so many more questions that need answers, so many more boxes that have to be checked before I can personally build up any sort of hype for this game. But don't let me stop you from being excited about it, please don't. But with there being only 2 pieces of gameplay over the span of 6 to 7 months, it's hard to say what direction this game is going without a demo, a roadmap, a devlog, some sort of media explaining or showcasing what we're seeing and where the game is going in the future. I also really hope and pray that this game comes back around into the public eye and hits me like a freight train for being so optimistic about it. I don't know if there's still one person making this game, but if so, keep kicking ass. You are doing such an incredible job and you've got the world's attention right now. And hell, I would love to have you on the channel one day so I can ask you some questions. I can really get a deep dive into what Unrecord is and why you made it. Now I turn the mic to you. Let me know down below what you think about Unrecord. Is it going to deliver on the hype? Is this a project doomed to be forgotten in time? Let me know. And while you're down there, go ahead and smash that like button and mag dump that sub button also you never miss another video. This is Sir Blackout signing off to record my next editing session on a GoPro and say it's a brand new game coming out. Later.